What, you may ask, is so important about knowing that these mighty ones existed? Take a good hard look. The meaning of names spoken of in Scripture. The Rephaim, spirits or shades. Anakim, a race of giants and descendants of the Nephilim. The Emim, proud deserters, terrors, or race of giants. Zuzim, evil ones, roaming things. Zamzamims, evil plotters. And the Zophim, watchers, angels who had descended, also called the many, or the legion. The problem really is these offspring were not always giants. Worse than that, many were not like humans at all. They were mighty in many ways, and even had technology much more advanced than the populace of the times they lived. Flying craft, amazing weapons, they even claimed immortality, and uncanny abilities are recorded in every culture. Every pagan system, any form of pride or lust in the world, is rooted from this usurpation over our human lives. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of making them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Zamyaza taught enchantments, and root cuttings. Armoros, the resolving of enchantments. Grekiel taught astrology, and Kokobel the constellations. Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds. Erikiel the signs of the earth, and Shamsiel the signs of the sun, and Sariel the courses of the moon. And as men perished they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. And only today are such practices more prominent than any other time in history, except maybe since the days of Enoch. There's way too much evidence that these monsters existed even today. With the rise in genetic technology, UFO sightings, and a multitude of cultures based on these abominations, it's easily seen what happened, and mankind has tried to eradicate them again and again, as Yah's word tells us to do, but in the least, stay away from them. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer, and kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaim and Ashereth Karnaim, and the Zuzims and Ham, and the Emim and Shaveh Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir, unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. In the same day the Elohim made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto thy seed I have given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Canaanites, and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. They are the most wicked abomination to ever walk the earth, so wicked that Yahuwah had to kill them off in a global flood. They taught the children of men to commit all manners of sin. They enslaved every man and woman that came into contact with, and forced them to worship giants and fallen angels as gods other than Yahuwah Elohim. The Gabora mighty ones were an unnatural creation of fallen angels, a tool that would destroy the righteous, enslave them, and blind all of mankind from the true Elohim for thousands of years, even up to today. The Nephilim of old were so fierce, so early in the creation, to pervert and corrupt the creation itself, Yahuwah had to wipe them out in a great flood. And because of the evidence of Geborim even after that, we know that they were after the flood also. Israel didn't do what they were commanded to do and eradicate the Nephilim, so the Nephilim were able to continue and spread into all the nations of the world to corrupt with their seed and traditions. The exile of Israel helped to spread the seed of mankind into all the nations to counteract the wicked seed. One reason Yahushua Messiah had come was to expose the lies and disobedience these wicked entities had deceived us to, worshipping other mighty ones other than Yahuwah Elohim, so that the seed of mankind could be redeemed and not be blinded into death forever. After the Israelite Hebrews destroyed them from the land of Canaan around 1500 BC, other cultures pick up their story and show where they went to. The Greeks say that where their gods came from was none other than the land of Palestine. The Romans, Greeks, Teutonics, Hindus, and Celts all had the same mighty ones with different names. These gods created kingships throughout Europe, Asia, the Americas, and nearly everywhere. Over thousands of years, the distinguishing traits of the Geborim became less and less, as more and more of them were killed in wars, and they were forced to miscegenate with normal-sized humans. But the kingships and nobilities continue, even into today through royal bloodlines. Celtic torque. This type of necklace, well known to be worn by the Gaels and Celts, distinctly ties the European giants with the Canaanite giants. The Anakim of the scriptures means sons of Anak, but the word Anak in Hebrew means a necklace so tight as to appear strangling or long necks. So how did the Israelites in the Torah know that they were sons of Anak? Well, obviously because of a distinguishing torque around their necks. Many modern-day peoples today still retain traits from these Rephaim, most of them trying to imitate their mighty ones. Came from Palestine to Europe. The Celts, comprised of 60 or more tribes called Cimbri or Cimmerians, came from the Middle East lands known as Samaria in northern Israel, where the Hindu peoples called them Aryans or noble ones. They migrated from Asia Minor and were then called Gomorian Sake, sons of Gomer and Magog possibly. Then this name was shortened into Calte, meaning potent and valiant men, very similar to the term mighty ones or Geborim in Hebrew. The Greeks called them Galate, a corruption of Celtic, and the Romans later changed this more into Gals. Later, as they inhabited the British Isles, they were known as Gaels, where we get the Gaelic language from. As time passed, other names were ascribed to them, such as Goths, Belgae, and even Germani. Of all else, World War II was the biggest evidence of these Nephilim and Geborim, who Hitler had called Aryans, meaning nobles, and the swastika he used was used by the Hindus, Egyptians, Phoenicians, and Germanics alike. And could you really call that a mere coincidence? Hitler's Aryan race was actually a legend of India, so just as the Hindu Mahabharata and Ramayana report ancient flying craft, the Mana, Hitler also began a project to regain this lost ancient technology given to mankind from the knowledge of angels who fell from heaven. On the left is an actual patent from BMW, and on the right is from a book Vihanika Shastra. There's a few names for it. You can notice the similarity. The Babylonians also knew of these flying craft, and in a text it was stated, paraphrased, "These flying chariots are passed on from our ancestors. They are not to be used in careless leisure, but are for the preservation of the people." In the Ethiopian version of the story of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, a flying chariot was also one of the gifts he gave her. The Egyptians have accounts of getting mad at flying chariots for flying by and knocking over their obelisks. And today, UFO sightings are all over, so we can then conclude that the Nephilim and their children and followers are still here, and possibly preparing for a takeover. And as a final note about these ancient flying craft, I'd like to add that the flying carpet in the Arabian Nights legends was not a flying carpet, it was a flying chariot. The entire concept of the New World Order is a rich elite descending from ancient bloodlines who have higher knowledge, technology, and are even superior in physical makeup and ability than the rest of the world. A sort of evolutionary survival of the fittest at its absolute worst. If power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. In 57 BC, Julius Caesar extended power of Rome into the region of Europe that is now Belgium. The people he encountered there were the Belgae, a Celtic tribe of early Gaul. Romans dubbed the new province Gallia. In the 4th century AD, control of Gaul was ceded to the Franks, a Germanic tribe that Rome employed as mercenaries. As the Franks flourished, they decided to expel the Romans. By 431, Franks established an independent dynasty, the Merovingians, with its capital at Tournai. Soon after, under Clovis I, the Merovingians pummeled the last of the Romans in Gaul. They held large parts of France, Belgium, and Germany, and after Clovis's death, the Merovingian kingdom began to fragment. Frankish lands didn't come together under a single rule again until Pepin III in 751. Pepin deposed the last of the Merovingians and founded the Carolingian dynasty, named after his son, Charlemagne. But the Merovingians still retained power through Charlemagne. It was simply that another family of them took over the rule. And since then, all nobilities of Europe descended from them. Kingships are based on the amount of pure blood a family has. But pure what? There has been a kingship behind the scenes that all other kingships feared and honored more than any other, the line of the Merovingians. Only the Pope was more popular and powerful, and the fight between the nobility and the Vatican has raged on also. Thinking that out of these two sides one must be right, everyone neglected they were both wrong, and we have only one king. He was called Messiah.